guys, and welcome back to another episode of Life According to Paolo, where I get to interview trailblazers, but in this case, it's tree blazers from around the globe, like today's guest called Andrew Frankland. He's absolutely amazing, and I'm really excited about this. So on my social media, you guys might remember that I'd done a post about planting a forest of 10,000 trees in Tanzania. Hence my new nickname, the Tree Whisperer, thanks to my uncle Toby Bailey, who is the chairman and CEO at Borg Global Holdings. Well, here, Mr. Franklin is the person from Forest Nation that reached out to me via LinkedIn about planting some trees. And so that's what we did. We've done it. We're in the process of planting 10,000 trees. And yeah, it's just been absolutely amazing. So over to you, Andrew, to go and introduce yourself, tell the audience who you are and what it is that you do.
Paolo, as always, it is a pleasure to see you and hear you and get your constant enthusiasm. So my name, as Paolo said, is Andrew Frankland. I'm the operations director for Forest Nation. Forest Nation is actually a marketing company. We are not a charity. Our goal is always to create marketing solutions for big businesses, for individuals, for fundraisers, for schools, for charities as well, to raise funds. But in every action that we take, we plant trees. So when we say we plant trees, we don't just plant trees for the sake of planting trees. We plant trees for one particular goal, which is to create sustainable livelihoods. What I mean by that is this, that in the world, across the globe, we have heavy deforestation, which I think everybody, you have to have been living under a rock not to realize that that is a real thing that's happening. And when we deforest, when human beings deforest, what we're doing is we're taking away the Earth's natural resource. It's natural resource to attract rainfall. It's natural resource to trap water and irrigate water so that we can farm. Just as a mini cycle, there's much more that forests do. But as soon as we take that resource away, particularly in hot countries, we create a very negative situation, which is that there's less rainfall, that there is therefore soil is degraded, and that means that we cannot farm. Now, for the majority of people in those regions, which is actually the majority of people on the planet, they are then unable to eat because the food security that they rely on, which is from the ground, from the soil, they don't have supermarkets, is gone. And so we plant trees to create that food security, that sustainable form of livelihood, to bring that natural resource back in. And the way we do it is we start by planting nurseries. Nurseries, just like garden centers that you might have at home, but full of tree seedlings. And they are mainly fruit tree seedlings. So what Paolo has done, the Tree Whisperer has done, is he has started planting a forest in Tanzania with our partners in Tanzania to continue this process that we've been doing now there for the last 6 years. And so what Paolo's forest will consist of are tree species such as mango, avocado, pear, plum, loquat, all sorts of fruit tree species. And those fruit trees are going to sustain those communities, but they're also going to be able to start to sell those fruits as well. So that's another form of income for them. The other major factor behind trees is that they produce oxygen. So oxygen is something we need to survive. So that's obviously a positive thing. And then the other really key element here is that they capture carbon. So all the trees that we're cutting down, there's a negative impact on the planet. So as Paolo and as others plant trees, we start to regenerate that natural resource that we require to survive.
Definitely, we do need trees to survive. And what I love most about trees is, we take what they don't need and they give us what we need. So it's absolutely amazing. So they take what we can't breathe, they take it, and then they give us what we can breathe so that we can live. So trees are a big, important part of humanity. So I think you've already answered my next question, which is what is Forest Nation? And I think you've already answered two questions so far. What is the
There we go.
story behind Forest Nation as well? But there is one question that has been left out, which is why and when did Forest Nation start?
Okay, that's a really really lovely question. So, firstly, the why. The why I think I've kind of explained, but the real reason why is because our CEO, that's another Andrew Pothecary. He is an entrepreneur, an individual that says, as a young man, probably not so different to you, Paolo, said, I want wealth. I want to have the ability to choose and make my own destiny, as many entrepreneurs do. But he said, I do not want to do that in a negative way. I do not want to create anything that is negative or wasteful in my product. And so he looked around at various things out there and he actually found nothing. That there was nothing out there that wasn't wasteful. So he realized that he needed to create a solution, create a product. And this is where real entrepreneurship comes in, where you can take your creative mind and really put that into a place that suits your goal. And his goal was, as I say, to create a product and a service that would be non-harmful. And so that's the why. And the other part of the question was the
when did it start?
The when. So the when was 10 years ago. In actual fact, we're in our 11th year. So we've been around in this space. We're pretty old, in the reforestation space.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. So with regards, let's say your personal life and also your life involved with Forest Nation, what are the three greatest adventures that you have been on?
With Forest Nation, I think, I started with Forest Nation 2.5 years ago. To give you a bit of background, I come from a corporate background. I am a business owner myself, and for probably the last 15 years, up until I joined Forest Nation, I've been running my own companies, and with some successes, with some failures. But in my mind, I'd been doing very much what Andrew Pothecary said he didn't want to do. I've been running companies with a mindset of I just need to make money. And therefore I wasn't particularly happy. So the first journey, or the first major thing that happened for me, was that when I met Andrew, I was able to see a lot of what I wanted to achieve in what he was already doing. And so the first part of that journey was, I was able to say, if I make this move, I will start on the path that I want to walk down. And so then the second thing was, in making that move, I had a lot to learn. I had come from, the greenest thing I think I'd done was I'd grown some potatoes in my grandfather's allotment when I was a little kid. So I wasn't particularly green. So I had a lot of things to learn about reforestation, about the environment, and most importantly, about the social impacts that deforestation have. And in that, there's quite a lot of challenges, because the reality is that as you learn this, you start to realize just how dangerous and damaging the capitalist system is, that I've been a part of, and how hard it is to change that. And then I think the third thing is probably building a team of people that are like-minded, a team of people that are able to really move this forward. And that includes you, Paolo. It includes the customers that we work with. We're a team of around 20, 25 people now, all situated all over the globe. And what I've understood is that whilst sometimes you can feel very alone in this journey, there are many people out there that want to do the same thing, but don't have the tools to take those actions. And so, probably the biggest adventure and, takeaway so far is that we have some amazing tools. We have some amazing products and amazing services that once we put them in the right hands, this will grow and continue to grow. And, this is very much what we see with yourself, Paolo, and with others that we work with.
Thank you so much. So my next question, pre-interview when we first met, I've been thinking about this a lot of the time, and then I actually told you about it, which is about creating a documentary with you guys at Forest Nation around how not only as the trees grow, but also as the community grows as well. So since Forest Nation, as you see with whether it's your customers, your team, or the communities that you have planted in, how has that impacted the communities or people that you've worked with?
So you're referring to the planting locations that we work in, yeah?
That's correct.
Okay, so the documentary, we had a chat about it, and for us, it is a kind of no-brainer. It would be absolutely brilliant once the doors open to travel and have individuals like yourself and customers going to these locations. In actual fact, last year in 2020, we were planning a trip for September that couldn't happen in the end, where we were going to take customers, particularly some customers that wanted to photograph, wanted to get involved because that was their business, but obviously it didn't happen. So that documentary idea is something that we are going to do. We want you to be a part of it. The things that we focus on within these regions, we already have the communities in Tanzania and Haiti sending us video and photographic content, which is not in a documentary format. So what we do with that is we already curate that and turn that into sort of mini docs, mini documentaries. But looking at the cycle of how a documentary could work, we look at the natural element. So let's start off with the seedling. Seedling's about the size of your thumb, as an example. We would follow that path of that seedling. What I mean by that is that in its first 6 months of life, from being a seedling to a sapling, so that's going from the size of your thumb to about the size of you, Paolo, it's going to take a lot of work. And that work is done by the community that we are raising the trees for. And that's predominantly women. So we would be following a lot of those women and asking them and to show us what they do. And it might seem really simple, but there's a lot of rotation involved. They need to water, they need to move the seedlings around. But remember, the seedlings are not in the ground. They're in pouches. So just like a garden centre and nursery. And so they have to be grown and moved around to get the most sunlight, and they need to be apportioned because they belong to an organization. They also belong to a farmer at the end of the day when they come out of the nursery, they go into a farming situation. So we would document that. Once they get to 6 to 9 months old, they're then going to be planted in the forest. That's a really exciting time because loads of people from the local community come together and they can then plant these trees. So we would then document that. Now, that's just the beginning of the life of that tree. We've only followed it for 6 to 9 months to a year. Then the next most important part is when that tree starts to produce some kind of fruit or harvest. Now, for a lot of trees in these regions, it's not about the fruit. It's also about the leaves they produce. A great example of that is the moringa tree. Moringa tree doesn't produce fruit, it produces a seed and a nut, but its leaves are so nutritious that they become part of the diet for these communities. So let's look at that for just 1 second. We could be documenting, because this tree grows in 6 to 9 months, it starts to produce its leaves. So we could be documenting that cycle, which is a closed loop cycle, immediately, within a very quick period of time. And then obviously the trees that take longer, so let's think of a mango, 5 years, avocado around the same. We start looking at these trees, it's going to take longer before we start to see that fruit harvest. So we would probably not document your mango trees, but we'd look at a documentation based on trees that we've been planting over the last 5 or 6 years, so that the viewer of that documentary can really understand the full impact. Now that's the tree itself, that's the fruit from the tree, but then there is the social impact. So now this woman that started raising those seedlings, now she has an income, her family have an income, but she's very likely to have children. And so we also have an education program where the children from those communities are coming in around the same age as you and younger, probably the same age as your little brother as well, from primary right the way up to secondary. They're learning about the trees that their mothers and their fathers are planting, because they are going to be the future of that forest. So we would document that as well. So the social impact is that the kids are learning about nature. They learn probably much more about nature than we ever did at school, and you probably are as well. But the fact is that, you know, through that process, we're then able to give them the evidence that cutting down trees is not the way to have an income. And that is really where the problem lies. The majority of people in these regions believe that cutting down trees is the way to survive, and actually it is a zero-sum game. Do you follow that?
Of course I follow it. I also know
Brilliant.
that the audience is following this as well. Trees are absolutely amazing. But I know you do have to go, but just this is the last question, which is just a final message that you'd like to share with the audience, whether it's words of inspiration or details of any exciting projects that you are doing or Forest Nation is doing. And how can they reach out to you as well?
Yeah, sure. And well, I would say the best way to reach out to us is via Paolo. You know, reach out to him and say, hey, I really love this, I want to know more. And Paolo will tell you more, because he knows all about what we're doing, or he'll introduce you to us. In terms of what you can do, apart from reaching out to Paolo, what you can do today, you know, very, very simple stuff. If you'll see a link in this video, in this interview, to go to Paolo's forest. One of the things that you can do, you can go and plant in Paolo's forest. Join him. 30 cents a tree is all it costs for you to get involved and plant trees in his forest. When you do, you'll get a certificate from Paolo saying, thank you for planting in my forest. You can share that on social media. When you share that on social media, somebody else can then come and plant in Paolo's forest. What this means is that we're then creating a community of planters. Now, if you then want to have your own forest, Paolo can help you with that as well. All you need to do, send him a message to say, I want to do what you're doing, I want to get involved as well, and he will connect you with us, and we'll start planting your forest for you. So the steps are very, very, very easy. The other thing that you can do to make sure that you are, you know, really learning about this is read about Paolo's forest. So when you go to the link, there is a full description of what we do in Tanzania. So if you want to learn more, you want to understand more about why this is so important, just read about Paolo's forest. And the final thing that I would suggest you do is always the same. I say this all the time, is that planting trees is good news. Okay, this is a good thing that you can do when it's done responsibly, when it's done correctly. What I mean by that is that, you know, you can go and plant a tree in your garden. Make sure that if you are planting a tree in your garden, it's a tree that should be in your garden. You know, that is not going to be invasive to other trees in your garden or other plants in your garden. Make sure that, you know, if you are a person that doesn't have a garden, you can still grow something on your balcony as a house plant. Remember, all of these plants are going to do two things. They're going to sequester carbon in your atmosphere, and they're going to produce oxygen in your atmosphere. And that is all positive. So you don't have to plant in Paolo's forest. You can do it at home. But I would say that every time you do this, remember, it's a good action. It's good news. And that's what we need around the world today. So take these actions and make a difference with us and with Paolo.
Thank you so much, Mr. Frankland. And like he said, there will be links to either plant in my forest, but also make sure to plant with Forest Nation as well. So there'll be a link down below, forestnation.com. Go and plant your forest. Go ahead and look at my forest as well. See the amazing things that Forest Nation is doing, where they're planting, and so much more. I've had an absolutely wonderful time interviewing you today. And yeah, I look forward to the future.
Paolo, it's always a pleasure, my friends. We'll stay in touch.